So, let's start. Number 9. Owning a cat, especially a black one. Cats today are lazy internet royalty. Back in medieval Europe, they were furry little death sentences. During the 13th to 17th centuries, owning a cat, especially a black one, could get you accused of witchcraft and executed. Why? Because religious and secular authorities believed cats were familiars, aka magical spirit helpers given to witches by Satan himself, and unlike helpful animals like oxen or hunting dogs, cats didn't do anything useful, they just stared, lurking, judging, cat stuff. Pope Gregory IX even issued a papal bull in 1233 declaring black cats evil, literally calling them satanic vessels, which led to massive extermination campaigns across Europe. The irony? Killing cats made the rat population explode, which helped spread the Black Death. So yes, a pope's cat phobia may have helped create the biggest plague in history. There are documented cases where women were dragged from their homes and executed solely because they kept a cat that liked to sit in windows and blink slowly. Some were accused of transforming into cats at night. Others were proven guilty because their cat hissed at a priest. And if your cat meowed during a thunderstorm, pack your bags for the afterlife because that was Witchcraft 101. In short, the only difference between harmless pet and demonic accomplice was timing, or fur color, or whether you made eye contact with a bishop. Number 8. Being a vegetarian. Back in the Middle Ages, especially in Europe, meat wasn't just food, it was symbolic. Eating it showed you were part of God's natural order, enjoying the bounty he provided through the toil of farmers, butchers, and the occasional crusade. So when someone refused to eat meat, it wasn't seen as a dietary choice, it was seen as a spiritual rebellion. Vegetarianism was often associated with heretics, especially certain fringe religious groups like the Cathars, who believed that all flesh was impure and that the material world itself was evil. That might sound like your cousin who's deep into conspiracy documentaries, but to the Catholic Church, this was high treason against divine creation. Cathars and similar groups were hunted down, tortured, and burned, not because they were vegetarians per se, but because their meat-free beliefs symbolized their rejection of church authority. Even outside of these sects, someone who refused to eat meat during a feast or who insisted on a plant-based diet was often viewed with suspicion. In some regions, it was believed that avoiding meat could weaken your body and make you susceptible to demonic possession, or worse, that you were already possessed and trying to purify yourself for some dark ritual. So if you rolled up to a medieval banquet and asked if they had a lentil stew instead of roast boar, you weren't seen as enlightened, you were seen as one goose leg away from heresy. Number 7, falling asleep in church. Imagine being so tired after farming, child rearing, and surviving the plague that you nod off for a second during a 5-hour sermon. And next thing you know, you're on trial for spiritual treason. In medieval and early modern Europe, falling asleep in church wasn't just embarrassing, it could get you fined, flogged, or in some extreme cases executed because it was seen as disrespecting God in his own house. If you couldn't stay awake while a priest shouted about eternal damnation, clearly your soul was already halfway to hell. It didn't help that most church services were held in cold, echoey stone buildings in Latin with no seating or heating. You stood the entire time, often after working all morning. But nodding off wasn't seen as exhaustion. It was proof that Satan had already started corrupting your soul. Some records from 16th century England describe towns where dozing in church was punished by stocks, public beatings, or being dragged into the square by your ears. In Puritan New England, it could escalate. If you were a repeat offender or known for slouching into darkness, your name might be handed to the local magistrate. From there, witch trial territory? Today, falling asleep in church just earns you a sharp elbow from grandma. Back then, it could earn you a grave. Number 6. Reading too much. Today, reading makes you look smart. Back in the 14th century, it made you look suspicious, like burn you at the stake suspicious. If you weren't a priest, a noble, or someone who'd spent years in a monastery, just owning a book could put a giant execution-shaped target on your back. Books were rare, handwritten, and expensive. They weren't mass-market thrillers or cozy fantasy novels. They were sacred objects, tightly controlled by the church and the upper class. So if a random farmer or blacksmith was seen reading, alarm bells went off. People feared that without proper spiritual supervision, reading could corrupt your soul, or worse, inspire independent thought. And nothing scared authority more than someone thinking for themselves. Things got especially risky if you were reading in a vernacular language instead of Latin. That's how you crossed the line from nerdy to heretic. A peasant caught with a translated Bible was seen as trying to interpret God's word without permission. That was basically theological treason. In places like England and France, this got people tortured, tried, and burned alive, all because they wanted to read in their mother tongue. So yeah, centuries before banned books were cool, being a bookworm could get you executed for intellectual curiosity. Number 5. Being the first to wake up. Nowadays, early risers get praised in TED Talks and motivational podcasts. But in certain medieval towns, waking up too early was basically a red flag for dark magic. Back then, being seen up and about before sunrise wasn't seen as productive. It was seen as suspiciously unnatural, especially if you weren't a monk. You see, the hours before dawn were believed to belong to witches, spirits, and other nocturnal nasties. So if you were strolling through town in the eerie pre-dawn fog, people assumed you were either summoning demons or one of them. There's an actual case in Bohemia where a baker, just doing his job, prepping loaves before sunrise, got accused of witchcraft. Locals thought the bread was cursed, and because bad luck coincidentally followed his deliveries that week, that was all the evidence they needed. The guy ended up executed, all for being too enthusiastic about carbs. So next time someone brags about their 4 a.m. hustle routine, just remind them. In medieval Europe, that was a one-way ticket to the gallows. Number 4. Carrying a spoon. You're walking around with a spoon in your pocket. Maybe it's silver, maybe it's carved bone, maybe you just forgot to put it down after lunch. And the next thing you know, you're being dragged to trial for witchcraft. In parts of medieval Europe, especially during peak witch hysteria, even the most harmless objects were seen as potential tools of the occult. Spoons, for some reason, were especially suspicious. If they were ornate, oddly shaped, or made of uncommon materials, they were thought to be used for stirring potions, drawing circles, or channeling spells. There's an actual case from 17th century Poland where a woman was executed simply because she kept a silver spoon in her shoe. Her reason? It was for good luck. But in an era when superstition ruled, that was basically a confession. Authorities claimed it was a witch's charm, and that was all they needed to haul her off to trial. Even in other parts of Europe, spoons found under beds, inside clothes, or hidden in walls were treated like magical contraband. Forget a wand. This was the original suspicious object. So yeah, in the Middle Ages, you didn't need a broomstick or a pointy hat to be accused of sorcery. Sometimes all it took was a spoon in the wrong place at the wrong time. Number 3. Baking bread that was too light. In medieval England, being a baker was basically a game of survival, not from poverty or rats, but from the government. Under the Assize of Bread and Ale, a law passed in 1266, every baker had to follow exact rules about how much their bread should weigh, depending on the price of wheat that day. Too heavy? You're wasting precious flour. Too light? Now you're defrauding the public. And that, my friend, was a crime worthy of public shaming. Local officials, hilariously known as ale conners and bread weighers, would literally show up at your stall, weigh your loaves, and if they found you skimping even a few ounces, you could be pilloried, flogged, or tossed in jail. Do it again, you might be dragged through the streets or executed as a fraudster. The same punishment as a counterfeiter, because underweight bread was treated like economic sabotage. And the truly messed up part, bread weight could be affected by weather, oven heat, or how finely the grain was milled. All things outside your control, but no one cared. Your innocent bagel shrinkage could get you hanged. Fast forward a few centuries and we're suing sandwich shops for missing an inch on our subs. At least now, the bread won't kill your Yelp score and your body. Number 2, wearing the wrong color. Today, you wear purple because it slaps. in the 1500s, wearing purple without royal blood was the fastest way to meet the executioner. Enter sumptuary laws. Medieval society's way of making sure you stayed in your lane visually. These laws dictated what colors, fabrics, and jewelry you were allowed to wear based on your social status. Commoners were restricted to dull browns and grays. Nobles got reds and blues. Royals? Purple, velvet, gold thread, basically the Coachella VIP package of fashion. But if you, a mere cobbler's son, dared to wear a silk sash or scarlet hose, that wasn't style. That was treason. Wearing clothing above your station could be interpreted as trying to pass for a noble, which in many kingdoms was a criminal offense. You could be fined, imprisoned, or straight up executed for impersonating someone with power, all because you rocked a look. There are actual recorded cases of tailors being whipped for selling above station cloth and servants being beheaded for borrowing their master's hat. The logic? If you dressed better than your rank, you might be trying to infiltrate court, scheme your way into marriage, or worst of all, confuse people into thinking you mattered. Fashion policing used to come with actual gallows. The next time someone raises an eyebrow at your outfit, just remember, at least they're not legally allowed to kill you over it. Number 1. Talking to yourself in public. Modern people talk to themselves at the grocery store like, did I already grab oat milk? Medieval people saw this and assumed it was demon summoning. In early modern Europe, muttering to yourself was a red flag, especially if you were a woman, old, lived alone, or just had a vibe that screamed folklore side character. Talking to yourself near animals or crops was instant witchcraft fuel. Your tomatoes didn't grow this year? Clearly, the widow down the road cursed them when she was whispering nonsense near your fence. This wasn't just rural paranoia. Courts took this stuff seriously. One Scottish woman was executed because someone overheard her talking to her chickens and later blamed her when one of them laid a weird egg. Another was accused of blowing wind into the air and causing a hailstorm. No spell book, no potions, just talking, and suddenly you're the reason a goat sneezed and crops failed. It wasn't just what you said, it was how you said it. Mumbled too softly, secret incantation. Talk to no one in particular, obvious demonic pact, say ugh after stubbing your toe. Congratulations, now the cows are infertile. In short, anxiety, boredom, or ADHD weren't personality quirks. They were execution level red flags. Thank you for watching and sticking till the end. We've got plenty more videos coming in the future. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss them. See you in the next one.